Griffin the Griffin by BlackWing. Chapter 97. Nuclear launch detected. No, not really. The next morning, I was up bright and early, having gotten a good sleep in Gilda's arms. What? She's fluffy. Anyway, I decided that I should go find Ivan. As the only human nearby, despite not being a brony, I needed to find out what kind of danger he posed. Given what I know of him so far, he's harmless, or at the very least good at staying alive. He's a potential ally, and he seems to like me well enough, despite being socially awkward. Much like a certain Griffin I know. In case you didn't catch that, I was referring to myself when I was a bit younger. In any case, it's probably a good thing I've been nice to them both. Well, except for one thing. He was easy enough to find, after all. He was the only human on the island. He kinda stood out. He looked alright last night, but I had to make sure he was okay. And also not mad at me. "Hey, Ivan!" I called out as I spotted him, flying down to the human who had at some point gotten clothes. Just a simple shirt and shorts. "I've been looking for you." Said human was a bit busy staring at his hands, clenching and unclenching them with a look of such glee that it was putting me off a little bit. He looked at me with dazed eyes. What? Okay, so he's probably really happy about being a human again. But in this world, he may want to go around as a zebra to blend in. I could teach him some magic. I mean, it's pretty harmless, just letting him change form and protect himself. "I've been looking for you. You busy? I was actually hoping to talk to you." "Yeah, sure. What do you want?" He said as he nodded, walking over nervously. "I kind of just wanted to make sure you were okay. After last night, I wasn't really sure." I replied hesitantly. Felt kind of like a jackass, but I have my reasons. He let a smile hit his face. "Yeah, best birthday gift I could ever ask for." That's a relief to me. I was pretty sure I knew how he felt, but not positive, and I'd hate to ruin my newest friendship. "Wait, birthday?" "Happy birthday, Ivan! I'm glad you're alright. I was fairly sure that you were just playing scared, since Catastrophe seems to be the type of person to get off on that, but I wasn't positive." He grinned awkwardly, showing off his scratched arms. Ouch. "Yeah, you could say that. She certainly is the type to keep up appearances." What does she put him through? Jeez, if she's like that. I mean, I'm always gentle and stuff when it comes to that. He doesn't seem too upset, although given the number of scars on his body, he may very well be numb to physical pain. I figured the least I could do is let you change form so she wouldn't ruin you. Better to switch it up instead of being pounded on non-stop, since she was going to do it anyways. Also, I really didn't want her to steal my amulet. I'm being honest here. She was going to jump him anyways. Best to give him a bit of a break. And I really, really like my amulet. His friend seemed the type to just steal it if I said no. He nodded. "So, what else is there to do around here?" He looked back at his palms happily. "Well, there's magic. You seem pretty interested in it. I could, I don't know, show you some stuff?" I said nonchalantly, trying to ease the awkwardness of me basically telling him I want to be his tutor. I know being able to change has helped me out, much less all the other spells I've come up with, and he looks like he could use a bit of protection. His eyes shot to look at me, a strange intensity replacing the previous confused glaze over them. "Magic? Tell me more about magic." "Come on. We'll need some open space to practice this. I guess you could hop on my back and we can fly out to the plains." I know he liked flying, and I'm trying to be nice. I don't mind, and I'm sure he'd be ecstatic. Again, even with the whole spider in his head that may or may not be real, I, for some strange reason, get a good feeling about him. I don't know why, but something about him just makes me want to help him. He nodded, his blue eyes wide. "Wait, I get to ride you?" He winced as soon as he said it. Poor guy. Awkward innuendo aside. Damn it, Catastrophe. Yes. I'm ridden around most of the time anyway. I don't mind. It's comfortable having a weight back there. He was silent for a moment. "How do I phrase, how should I mount you as a human without it coming off as telling you to bend over?" I resisted the urge to facepalm. He must be the most socially awkward person in the world. Every single thing he says can be taken the wrong way. You can always walk up and put a hand right here on my shoulder and push down gently. Better than to risk verbalizing it. He rolled his eyes at something and did as was asked, putting his hand on my shoulder and pressing down slightly. I folded my legs underneath myself and let him climb on, which resulted in him wrapping his arms around my neck and burying his face in my feathers. You know, whenever we molt, we keep the feathers in storage. I could totally set you up with a pillow if you want. I know how freaking comfortable they are. He let out a grunt. Not as good as when they're still attached. He laughed slightly. So, adventure sharing story time? Sure. Just make sure to keep your arms wrapped low around my chest instead of around my neck. Wouldn't want to strangle me mid-flight. That would be bad. Here we go. I took off at a leisurely pace, not wanting to go too fast and scare Ivan. What do you want to know? So, you and that other Griffin, together, right? Yeah, although the relationship is a little loose right now. She was in heat, and I told her it was alright if she used someone who couldn't get her pregnant. But she felt like it was morally wrong unless I slept with someone else too. Enter Nadine. As it turns out, human sweat has an effect similar to catnip. On that type of cat, anyway. Except instead of loopy, it makes them horny. Combined with the actual catnip she was smoking, well, we didn't end up doing it, but it got me high and I did do it with Gilda. I sure hope she isn't pregnant. That would throw a huge wrench in our plans. But pretty much we're alright with having different partners, so long as the other approves of them. He tensed as I could feel his heart pounding in his chest against my back. Alright with different partners? There was that awkward pause. Save me. I just had an idea of what Cata would be like pregnant. List of things that scare Griffin. +2. That crazy bitch on pregnancy hormone, and that crazy bitch as a mother. You're alright. She isn't. Only thing that can get a Griffin preggo is another Griffin, a Pegasus, or a dragon. But dragons can go with anyone. I met a half-dragon diamond dog a while ago. I reassured him. Best he know that he won't have to deal with that. Anyways, we're here. I felt his weight shift slightly, him looking over the edge to see an open meadow on the far side of the forest of the settlement. Small, about 200 meters across, both axes green grass. Likely in the past a fire happened here and destroyed the trees, which didn't grow back as any seedlings would be choked out by the faster growing grass. He blinked and looked down at the ground. I feel so weak, he said as he hopped down, hitting the ground and tumbling to his side. He probably does. I know as a human I feel the same. Less affinity for magic, senses aren't as sharp, save the sense of touch, which comes from having smooth skin. No natural weaponry, no camouflage, can't fly, and can't climb trees as well as our ancestors. Sure, it's fine for our own civilized world, but in both the wilds of Equestria, or whatever this planet is called, it's pretty much a death sentence. It's alright, it's actually a good thing when we came here we weren't human. We'd have died right away. He looked curious. How so? Within a week of my arrival, I was eaten by a dragon. I survived because I can fly and have sharp talons. I cut him up from the inside out. Truth be told, it might have been longer than a week, but I forget. It's been what, a year and a half? I got thrown into slavery. They removed my will to revolt through magic. They scalped my will to live. He said this matter-of-factly with just a tiny hint of sorrow. And now I feel bad. What the hell else has this poor guy been through? I thought as much, judging by the scars you had. Reverti. He turned back into a zebra, and then looked at his hooves with disappointment. Being human does have its benefits. You've seen your fair share of trouble. And I'm truly sorry. I wasn't aware the Diamond Dogs had mind control techniques other than the Stockholm Syndrome. He blinked, raising an eyebrow at me. Why the hell are you sorry? I, may have recently discovered a way to magically dominate someone, pretty much trapping their mind inside mine, and making their body my own. I said this nervously, not sure how he'd take my dabbing in the dark arts. We used it once against a warren that was locked up tight. Never again. He turned, and instantly his right hoof shot out to fumble for his pouch. I'm not sure what was in it, but I think it was meant to be a threatening gesture, given that he spoke with more of a hiss than an actual word. What? There was so much anger and spite in that word. I let out a sigh and wiped my forehead with a talon. We found a dog that was guarding the gate. He had given up his will to live, so we used him to get inside. The spell puts you in a mindscape with the spell target, where you try to make the others give up. The winner gets telepathic control of the body, but at the same time also gets the very essence of the loser. You get their entire being, their memories, their mind, and you torture yourself knowing you've enslaved someone you now know so well you could call them your friend. I said with a sad sigh. One of my crew used it. It tore her apart. After that, we all swore to never touch it again. He looked away. I know the feeling. I know the feeling. His voice cracked up an octave halfway through the word feeling. You regret it, right? You regret how badly they broke? Yeah, I regret it. And honestly wish I had never thought of it with a dozen other spells which we haven't used that could be considered dark magic. Anyways, I won't be doing anything with dark magic. Just going to teach you the basics. And let you figure out the rest on your own. How much Latin do you know? He twitched. How many other spells are we talking about? I know 20 spells, I think. Oh? You already know some. That's good. That will make things a lot easier. Well, it's not so much of knowing a lot of spells as it is knowing the application. Magic, at least the kind we use, is a mix of incantation and intent. He nodded, letting the knowledge soak in. In terms of numbers, I figured out maybe 50 and at least 3 uses for each. That and some of my crew can do things... I don't even... Surprise! A Pegasus has 2 mice that are living shadows she made which live in her mane. How she gave the absence of light a physical form, I'll never know. He nodded yet again. What is he, a bobblehead? So, how do I magic? Explanation time. Well, everyone has magic, but only unicorns and dragons store it naturally. We use gems, which charge up through a kind of meditation. Then we speak a word and think of what we want to happen. Many words have multiple meanings. For example, one of my personal favorites, Umbra, means shadow, muffle, and blind senses. With it, I can surround myself in shadows to blend in with the darkness, make myself completely silent, or silence, blind, mute, and numb someone else. Now that you're a zebra again, it should be easier for you to sense it. He lit up into a smile. Through gems, right? Any gem with Latin? Pretty much, although certain types of gem work with different spells better. Rubies work better with fire spells, aquamarines with water, etc., etc. He glowed slightly with a spell, a rather bright and vibrant diamond slipping from his pouch. It glowed with an inner fire. He's got a sun diamond. A small one, but definitely the same as my ship's power source. And diamonds are all-purpose. Who's the teacher? Volaire. It also means to fly. Also, I see you already know a little of your own. And then Ivan was hovering midair. He flailed a bit before being let down softly. There are also non-elemental spells like Volaire, Form of Verses, Protego, and the like. He nodded. Let me try. Alie kata est. I have no idea at all what it means. He blinked. Aw, nothing happened. Not all Latin words or phrases are spells. Or some are, but you don't have the power needed to cast them. Most of the complicated stuff I do is actually a mix of several spells. You, may want to stand back for this one. It explodes. He smiled as he backpedaled away, clearly looking forward to this. Just tell me how far. He stared at me. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. About another 15 feet. And don't be right in front of me. A little more. Wouldn't want you to blow up too. You know what? Better go back to the tree line. He groaned and retreated farther. Ivan want big boom. Okay, that's good. First things first, I had to practically yell. Protego! It means protect. Because I don't want to splatter myself all over the meadow. Remember that one. It's really useful. He concentrated. I cast Guardian, was his response. A massive yellow shield bubble popped up around him. Protego Guardian! Okay, so maybe he's better than I thought. That wasn't Latin, and I have no idea how he did it, but it seems to have the same as the barrier class of Protego spell. His was yellow, mine was a vibrant red, almost pinkish. But I wasn't using that. I was using the hardened skin type, since my spell would be going off right next to me, and the barrier needs room, as they naturally take a dome shape, like a bubble. Adding the cushion protection spell all around me, followed by a shield spell right in front where the spell would be taking place, I began. Looks like you already got it covered. Now watch carefully. I crouched low to the ground and put both my wings in front of me, arched to encompass a ball of air that was beginning to form. Condense vento. It means condense the wind. Sure enough, the air began flowing into the area around my wings. I'm using natural Griffin air magic in conjunction with the spell to condense the air into the ball in front of me. He nodded, looking closely. I could feel the pressure beginning to build, a slight push against my mind as the equilibrium of nature resisted my spell. You know how they use highly pressurized water to cut steel? I asked rhetorically. Diamonds and other things too, right? He answered. Okay, so he knows about industrial production. Yeah, diamonds too. Well, air can do the same thing, it just needs to be at a higher pressure. They can't do it with machines, but that's why I have magic. He nodded voicelessly, as a look of sheer awe on his face. Now the air in the ball is getting really hot. It's also trying to expand. Here comes the next part. Klepto Ingus. Steal the flame. I remove the heat from the ball, making it easier to condense. But I'll still need the heat later. So here's the next bit. Perfectum Circus. Perfect circle. Without a great deal of the push against my mind faded, allowing me to condense the air more easily. At the same time, as more and more air was sucked in, more and more heat was drawn out, stored in a ring of flame that appeared on the ground around me. The flames danced and grew as more and more energy was fed to them. I wasn't worried about the fire, though, because of what happened next. I couldn't catch the field ablaze. Still, more and more air kept being pulled into the ball. Right now, this ball of air is really dense. There's actually liquid core beginning to form. The ball itself is really far below zero. If I were to throw it, it would freeze anything it touches. But I'm not done. The ball, even though it's cold, is still pushing outwards. So now I use claustra, from claustrophobia. Claustra is contain or trap. It keeps it from blowing up on me. I could feel my whole body tingle with magic, the strain on my magic trying to keep the ball held together. I could feel my energy being drawn out and a pressure in my mind, like a piano wire wound too tight. The greater the pull in the mind, the tighter the tension. If you attempt a spell beyond your willpower, the spell will break. If the spell breaks, the wire snaps, and it hurts. A lot. And that's not to mention the effects on the spell itself. That's just the backlash on the mind of the spell being done improperly. I always try to finish it off before that happens. Sometimes I can't. And now I draw the heat of the fire back into the ball, making it heat up and expand rapidly. Reverti! The ring of flame shot forward with a whoosh, being sucked into the ball, but the ball itself didn't change inside. I could barely contain it now, and I felt that I was approaching the breaking point. Are you about to do what I think you're about to do? Holy shit, you are totally about to do that! Ivan cried. Unfortunately, no. I was not about to do that, whatever it is. The reason for that? And now, I don't know what to do next. I can't throw it or it'll blow up immediately when I take the pressure off, and there's no way for me to release the pressure. I don't know the word for rupture. I caught the sight of Ivan out of the corner of my eye, sudden realization dawning on him before he dove for cover. Right before I released the spell to prevent the mental backlash, pouring all the magic I could into protecting myself as it exploded. A mushroom cloud of dust, dirt, and licks of flame filled the meadow, charred with the center portion of black. I coughed in some smoke and waved it away, looking at my blackened feathers. Well, there's your problem, I said in the classic Mythbusters manner. It's safe now. Mostly. Mind the smoke! Impetus! Try impetus! No, wait, that would just make it explode sooner. Ivan pondered as he slowly walked towards where I stood. I cast a wind spell to clear the smoke away. I can't seem to get the last bit. If I could poke a hole in it, it would shoot out the hole. The solid air core would go first, being the part with the highest density, and it would be followed by a stream of superheated air which would constantly expand. Pretty much it's a cannon. It fires a shell that can smash diamond, followed by a pillar of flame that torches everything. That's the theory, anyways. He blinked, simply standing there in awe. That is so completely and utterly awesome. Thanks. I don't think I'm strong enough yet to encompass it as much as I need, and I can't get the core past the liquid state to the solid state yet. And I don't know the word for rupture yet, although I've got a plan to find out how. He nodded. Practice makes magic perfect, right? Say, have you tried some common sayings? Yeah, I've tried everything I can think for rupture, burst, explode, make a hole, poke, cut, and whatnot. My normal cut spell doesn't seem to do the trick, as the air ball doesn't get enough of a break in it. Thanks for the support, by the way. It feels good to be appreciated. I'm thinking of making a word pump for it. He nodded as he understood, again with a nodding. Oh man, this is going to make spell programming so much easier. Word pump? Basically, I'm going to run through every possibility narrowed down. I'm almost positive it begins with an R, since English is based on Latin anyway. It's the most inefficient, but also guaranteed method. I'm going to start with short words and move on up, starting with R. So, let's see. 21 consonants and 5 vowels, and another 5 with treating Y as a vowel. That makes 110 possible syllables. I don't need to worry about spelling, since it's the sound and not the spelling we're dealing with. If a word has a silent letter, it won't matter, since I'm still saying the same thing without them. He looked around blankly, clearly not getting it. Time for a practical explanation. I'm going to start with rab, then rack, then rad, then go all the way to ruse. Then I'll move on to syllable words. Rubab, rabak, rabad, rabaf, and then rabeb, rebek, etc. All the way to ruzuz. 110 syllables. Multiplied by another 110, that's... Hold on. I did some quick mathematics in the blackened dirt with my claw. 12,100 possible combinations of two-syllable words, with the original 110 to add to it, so that's 12,210 word combinations. Hopefully, I hit it before I get there. I gave an exasperated sigh. As I said before, it's inefficient and time-consuming, but I will eventually get there so long as I keep at it. If I go through all those and still don't find it, I'm going to give up on it till I find more reference material, since doing three-syllable words is going to be into the millions of combinations. And I have too many other things to do to waste time on it. He nodded. But isn't there a chance that you'll supercharge it and make it blow up through your protection and kill you instantly, leaving you and your family and friends to wonder what the fuck happened? I'm going to try it on balloons first, so it's not nearly so dangerous, and I always throw a whole slew of protection spells on myself before I experimented with anything. Anyways, we should probably get out of here. People will have noticed the explosion in a giant mushroom cloud, and what's going through Gilda's mind right now is probably something along the lines of, "Damn it, Griff, if he's not dead, I'll kill him." He grinned. That was nice. This was nice. Thanks. Anyway, here's a copy of basic Latin words and meanings. Yes, I do keep a copy of them on me at all times for just such an occasion. How you apply them is up to you. Just stay away from mort anything. I'd hate myself if you or someone else wound up dead using that spell. And make sure, before you do any testing, you cast as many protection spells on yourself as possible. Would have hated to have been in that. I motioned towards the crater we were now fleeing from, without any shielding on. The gem array in my wing is tapped out now, so no more magic for me until it recharges. I let out another sigh and hung my head in depression as we walked back into town. Ivan looked at me strangely, cocking his head to the side and putting a hoof to his chin. What's wrong? I just had a lot taken from me recently. My wing, for one, and my sword. It was a special sword. Something supposedly unbreakable, which could store an absurd amount of magic, got snapped in half like a twig. I used it every day and I feel naked without it. So I wore it everywhere. Now that it's broken, I'm not sure what to do. I need to make some money in order to fix it, but there's so many other expenses like buying the supplies for the next settlement. This is the first time that money has actually been an issue. Supplies, transportation for the supplies, construction workers, architects, city planners, and 1,000 pieces of paper that say where everywhere, everything, and everyone is, so that we can put families together. Equestria fronted the cost for first, but their charity won't last forever, and Signal isn't ready to start exporting goods yet, nor do I have the trade union with the dogs and zebras set up. Although I got Bluebeak in touch with Blue Blood to work on setting up an international trade system, they need a new one anyway, ever since the East Equestria Trade Company got shut down by the government for corruption. When we were in Ponyville, Gilda had visited Twilight at the library and spent a couple hours there. I'm not sure all of what went on, but apparently Twilight has been keeping tabs on things. So she has copies of news articles detailing interesting events from Canterlot Times, and Gilda was able to get a copy for me to look through during our travel time. I guess there's just so much to do, and I'm a bit tired is all. I'm putting tasks I'm no good at or don't need to handle personally onto more qualified people, but there's still just so much more for me to do.